Well, welcome, everybody. Welcome to our fourth edition of Pass the Baton. The Latino Surgical Society was established to cultivate, nurture, and support the advancement of Latino surgeons, and today's event is in line with our mission. My name is Joseph Hernandez Mode. I'm an assistant professor of surgery at Duke University. I'm very proud to lead this introduction and make the introduction of our moderator and panelist. During this event, we'll hear from current and Latinx surgical residents who are in their second year of training at various programs across the nation about their internship experience and how they excelled during their first year as surgeons in training. I want to thank our institutional members, their faculty, and trainees for their support. By way of announcements, we have the Association of Women Surgeons DEI Travel Award. Please apply by July 12th. Lastly, I want to thank all of you, our members, for supporting and believing in the Latino Surgical Society. So let's get started. On the panel, we are honored to have Andres Abreu, our moderator. Dr. Andres Abreu obtained his Doctorate of Medicine in 2020 from the Universidad Central de Venezuela in Caracas, Venezuela. He is an incoming general surgery resident at UT Southwestern Medical Center, Dallas, Texas, where he also completed his research fellowship in the Division of Surgical Oncology. Throughout his fellowship, he has immersed himself in surgical oncology outcomes, healthcare costs, and surgical education research with an emphasis on robotic surgery curriculum development, the incorporation of artificial intelligence in surgery, and addressing health disparities. Our panelists, Ofelia Negrete Vasquez. Doctora Vasquez is from Kyle, Texas, is a categorical general surgery resident, PGY2 at UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas. Ofelia is a proud daughter of two hardworking Mexican immigrants to whom she attributes her work ethic, penchant for helping others, and thus her inspiration for pursuing a career in medicine while studying biology at UT Austin. Ofelia journeyed northbound on I-35 East for medical school at UT Southwestern, where she developed a passion for service and working with the vulnerable patient population of Dallas County's Safety Net Medical Center, Parkland Hospital. She finds it a true privilege to be able to continue to serve the patients of Parkland and learn from them. As a newly christened surgical PGY2, Ofelia's hobbies include sleeping, eating, and sleeping, which haven't changed from intern year. Welcome. Cindy Cruz Alvarez is our next panelist. Doctora Alvarez is general surgery PGY2 prelim at BMH. As a medical student at Strict School of Medicine, she advocated for Spanish-speaking community, both as a certified medical Spanish interpreter and a volunteer for research services guided towards Spanish-speaking individuals. Cindy is passionate about enhancing interventions in healthcare and health outcomes in underserved communities. Before medical school, she obtained her master's in biomedical sciences from Rutgers University and graduated from Seton Hall University in New Jersey with a Bachelor of Arts in Biological Sciences. As a Colombian immigrant, she is passionate about mentoring the next generation of Latinos in medicine. Cindy enjoys working with younger peers and encourages them to pursue higher education. Doctora Cruz hopes to bridge her passion for medicine and research and health equity to become a well-rounded physician to serve the Latinx community. Next, we have, welcome, Doctora Cruz, Fernanda Romero-Hernandez. Doctora Romero-Hernandez is currently a PGY1 general surgery resident at UCSF. She's an international medical graduate from Mexico who graduated from honors from Universidad Autonoma de Querétaro in 2017. Following her graduation, she completed a one-year postgraduate research at the Experimental Surgery Department of Instituto Nacional de Nutrición, Salvador, Zubiran, where her research on esophageal motility disorders earned her the prestigious Bernardo Sepulveda Research Award in Mexico. She completed 2 years of general surgery residency at Instituto Mexicano de Seguro Social in Monterrey before immigrating to the United States to pursue her career in academic surgery. In 2001, she joined the Hepatopancreaticobiliary Research Group in the Division of Surgical Oncology at University of California, San Francisco, UCSF. And beyond her professional achievements, She's an avid sports enthusiast, former soccer player, and founding member of the Celtic International women's soccer team in her middle school. Welcome, Doctor Romero-Hernandez. Lastly, we have Dr. Rodrigo Alterio. Dr. Alterio is a PGY1 surgery resident at Florida Atlantic University. He completed a preliminary intern year at the University of Texas Southwestern, a lot of UT Southwestern folks, where he also completed a 2-year postdoc research fellowship. During his fellowship, he focused on health service research and healthcare cost analysis, studying the racial ethnic disparities in the field of gastrointestinal cancer and HPV surgery. He is also passionate about surgical education, as a particular interest in curriculum development, simulation, and surgical video assessment projects. He was born and raised in Caracas, Venezuela, and aims to become an academic thoracic surgeon. Thank you all for joining us. I'm really excited about hearing all of your perspectives and advice on intern year.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Fernandez. Thank you for the introduction. And first of all, thank you to all the panelists. We heard with the introductions, you're all amazing, and congratulations, very accomplished Latino future surgeons. So, here I am. I'm about to start intern year in like 2 weeks, and I want to hear from you, your words of wisdom and how was your experience. So the way I want to do this is I'm going to start with the first question. Whoever wants to start, please go ahead, and then I'll just go around the screen and kind of like we can jump and we can hear from every one of you. So right now, put yourselves in my shoes, and before starting residency, what were your expectations about intern year? What were you scared of, and what made you most anxious or nervous about this year? Whoever wants to start, please go ahead. No one? Okay, Ophelia.
I can go first.
I can start. I still remember intern year. I was afraid of failing, and I was afraid of not knowing, after all that training, what I was doing. And that was one of the things, that fear that drove a lot of my own anxiety, unfortunately, but also a lot of the work that I did and the extra hours that I put in my hospital. And of course, I'm now a generation away from where you guys are in terms of training, but God, I'm old. I don't think that level of anxiety ever really leaves. And so, leading up to it, the other thing that was constantly on my mind is that it was really one of the first times that I was away from my family. I grew up in New Jersey, was also a graduate of Rutgers and got a biomedical engineering degree there as well. And outside of college, I'd always lived in the New York City area around my family. It was the first time that I really, for a prolonged period of time, was going to be out on my own without any support system or structure. And that, to me, was a big jump of independence that really also scared me a little bit, but allowed me to also grow and lean on everything that my family taught me to grow, friendships and relationships.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Fernanda, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I would like to echo what Dr. Fernandez said. I think it's a year when everything generates anxiety, even like talking to patients, talking to your chief, talking to the attending. And I agree, like you feel more comfortable throughout the year. I think my personal experience is I was already a resident in Mexico, so I did have some clinical experience there. But again, for me, it was learning a completely new or a completely different health system, and learning how to navigate this with different teams was also leading me a lot of anxiety, especially because I needed to communicate if a patient was, getting sicker, or how do I communicate in an efficient way so my chief knows what to do. So I would say it's a fantastic year. I think we all start with like this feeling of anxiety and like, I don't know nothing. And I think at the end we do know stuff. And it's just a matter of like, how to get to that point of finesse, that it takes you time. I think for me, every time I felt comfortable in every service, I'd be like, yes, I got this. And then I need to change to a completely different service, completely different dynamic. So every time, every change was also an anxiety. And I think now I look back and I was like, yeah, the anxiety probably at the beginning of the intern year, probably the first 3 months was like probably a week. And I think at the end of the intern year was like probably one day, like I know what I'm doing now. And I know I have my chiefs back and my attendings back, and like I'm not completely alone.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And Ophelia, for example, now going to you, what would you say was kind of like the steepest part of that learning curve that pretty much Dr. Fernandez and Dr. Romero-Hernandez touched on that, but what would you say for you was the steepest part of that learning curve?
Yeah, Andres, I would say it was finding a balance, especially in the operating room. You're like fighting to get in there, like coming in early, and you're like, I'm gonna do all my notes. That way I can like be in the operating room and get some experience. And as soon as you hit the operating room, your pager's going off. You have people coming in, and sometimes like the scrub techs will be amazing and like the circulators, and they'll try to help take the pager away and sometimes call back for you, but it's still a lot of distractions that I don't think I realized that you would have. Like when I thought of the operating room and being in there like as a I was like, oh, like you can focus on the surgery, you're learning so much. And I didn't realize that as an intern you have a lot of things going through your head that are not just in the operating room. You have all the floor patients that you're like thinking about, and then you have the pager going off, and at the same time you're telling your hands to like wake up and learn how to be a surgeon, you know. So I think it's just a lot of like balancing and like relying on your team to like help you out. It's like I've had great and like wonderful third years who for like level appropriate cases have let me be in the operating room, and they actually have like taken the pager from me and then just kind of like allowed me to hand them over that responsibility so I can focus on learning how to do a hemorrhoidectomy or, you know, things like that. So I think it's all about teamwork, and you'll get more comfortable as the year goes on, but just kind of letting your team help you with those responsibilities as well.
Sweet, sweet. Just thank you for sharing that. And Cindy, for example, for you, what was the most important lesson that you learned?
I think
If you could pick one, what would it be?
there's many lessons to learn intern year. It's all about learning. So every day is a new learning experience, every hour, everywhere you go. But I think the most important part is to have grace to yourself, in order to know that you can grow from one day to the other. And like you're just going through a transition process. Every day is a new learning experience. And as you go through the progress, because it's a process, just be graceful to yourself. You'll get there, you know, you're gonna be able to get all the notes done, you're gonna be able to learn the cases. But as you're going through it, I think it's just very frustrating sometimes. And it can be challenging, you know, you might be good at one thing versus like not so good at other things. So I think the most important part is just being graceful to yourself and, you know, just going back and learning, how can I make this better? And always asking for help. I feel like that was another thing that really benefited me in the beginning. I was like, oh, I can do this, I can do this. But no, you got to ask for help. We're in a team, and like the whole team is there to help you.
Awesome. So it sounds kind of like collecting the piece of what you're saying. It sounds a lot about not beating yourself up too hard. You're there to learn, and also relying on your team and be humble to ask for help, right? If I'm collecting things right. And Rodrigo, for example, if you could share, you know, your first year at UT Southwestern. I came here, I took over your job, very much our research was the same. And I want to know from your experience, I was there, I remember kind of like you were navigating that year. What, if you could recall and tell us what was kind of like the lowest moment and what was the highest moment for you? And I think this is an interesting question. And so if someone else wants to share something, please go ahead after Rod and we can talk about that.
Sure, of course. Actually, I'm kind of, you know, you're listening to everybody and I'm feeling everything that they felt, you know, it's completely, is exactly the same. I mean, you at the first 3 weeks of intern year are, are hard. You're learning the system. You're coming to another country with a different health system, different electronic medical records. I mean, it's just adapting to a new system, new medical language. I mean, at least me, I did my medical school at Venezuela, so came here, stayed here for 3 years. Coming back, and it's completely a different scenario here, right? Definitely intern year has ups and downs. It's a roller coaster of emotions. I would describe it like that. It's pretty hard in terms of the hours that you're putting in, of course. I mean, you're coming obviously from med school, and you know that we have been studying a lot, putting some hours to study, but when it comes to the work and patient care, and if you have to stay, you have to stay and with your team, and you're not letting your team work by their own. You're going to be there and stay there until the late hours, until the work is done, until the patients are taken care of. So that is one of the things that I would say that it's tough from intern year. There's a lot of hours that you put in. Added to what Dr. Fernandez was saying, you don't have your family here. You don't have, or at least I didn't have it. You don't have your support system, like the family nucleus support system that you are used to. So it's pretty tough on that point. So it can come to a point that you are overwhelmed, okay, with the hours. So I would say that certain points in the intern year, you can feel like that, but at the same time, you have a great team that is pushing you, forward, and helping you overcome all those stress in the work, all the bad days, So I'd say that would be my lowest point of the residency. I cannot point you to a certain month. There's some months at Parkland that are pretty busy. There's some months at at Clemens that are pretty busy, but those I would say that are the lowest points that I had. And highest points, I would say that coming back here at FAU and redoing my first year, the fact that you have been at least learning and operatively, like the techniques operatively, the fact that you start without nothing, without anything, basically at the first 3 months, last 3 months of your intern year, you're feeling how you're progressing, even if it's a little, you feel when your attending is, telling you that you're doing better, you're tying the knots better, you're sewing better. That is so gratifying. And I think that that's the best point that I felt myself on residency as well. Those good feedbacks from your attendings, from your senior residents. I think that helps you push, yourself a little bit more, I'd say.
Great. And Ophelia, okay, now your experience, you came to you did your medical school here at UT Southwestern. You knew the attendings and you knew the people more or less, but you knew them. There are a ton, but you knew pretty much most of them. But what was your experience as an American grad, and coming to knowing the system and also facing intern year? What was your highest and what was your lowest moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the highest moments, like when you do your first surgery and you're like in there and an attending's walking you through it and you feel like you're doing most of the case. And I remember getting out of the operating room and for like 30 seconds calling my mom and saying, "Hey, can you believe it? I did this." And she's like, like laughing and saying she's gonna call her comadres and all this other stuff, And so it's like a really nice moment. And then like for like that time, it's like I don't know, you're on top of the world. And then afterwards you realize you have to come back to reality and like do a lot of other stuff. But I would say like the highs always for me were kind of like, I always tried to hold on to them as much as I could. And then for the lows, I mean, I think similar is like the hours, they do get to you when you're at the VA and you're like having to drive back and forth. And then I don't know, I think it's a common topic, the VA. I think it ends up being like the system, the CPRS is just a little bit harder. and it makes you feel like you don't know anything about being an intern. Um, so I think the VA was definitely a low point for me, where I had to just kind of like be stubborn and say, I'm going to learn how to do this, and I'm going to create templates, even if it's only for this month, and try to make my life a little bit easier. But sometimes you have to put a little bit of time into creating things that will hopefully pay off throughout the month and allow you to get home for dinner and eat something before you have to go to sleep again.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Ophelia. And Fernanda, for example, what would you say now in terms of preparing academically? Do you think that, I should be doing that? Like, I lied to myself and I said, yeah, I'm gonna buy a book and read it, but should I should I be doing that? Is that necessary or not really? And you learn on the go. I mean, how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think
Studying,
that's a great
preparing for
question.
upside.
Yeah, I think it's a balance. I think some things you learn throughout the journey of intern year, and sometimes you need to go and dive in a little bit more. Like I remember seeing like these very rare disease that I had no idea. So I literally need to go back and study and be like, oh, like this is the disease, this is like complications that I'm expecting, blah, blah, blah. But I had no idea. So I actually sat down. And sometimes it's just a matter of like, like the day to day and how the chiefs like, and then you start learning that every surgeon has any like personal preferences. You learn from them because they do have a lot of experience, right? So I think it's a right balance. I think at the beginning of intern year, I was hungry to learn. And I was like, yeah, I should read eras and I should read this. And then at some point, like I have 5, 6, 7 years to learn how to be a surgeon. Like there's no way for me I will read the entire book in just one day. Like I think one practice that I do, and I mean I still do, and I did an intern year is every day after a day or night, I chose one specific topic. For example, acute appendicitis, and I read about that. Either it was like the surgical technique, pathophysiology, whatever it was. And I focused on that. It was probably like 10, 20 minutes because, of course, you're tired, but at least I focus on that or any specific complication that I was not expecting. And so that really helped me because I started, kind of bringing in this like academic part of like actually reading and not just like being like, well, this is a complication, like you should expect that. And of course, it was also finding a balance. Like, I'm married. I also want to just relax and I had a rough day. But at least I spent 20 to 30 minutes of my day to read about any disease that I saw that day. For AppSite, I think what I did was I kind of developed like a program before starting intern year. And I had this Q-bank questions that I knew I needed to answer 10, 20 questions. And then near AppSite, I was answering more. My program I also have to answer 10 questions per week. So I knew I need to answer those. But I think coming in with a plan actually helped me to kind of be organized throughout my intern year and be like, this day I will take completely off because I really need a day off. And this day, even though I'm off, I need to do more research or study a little bit more. Like it was just finding this balance. But again, it's, I would say hard, both either like experience and also reading.
And organization. Okay. I need to learn those organization skills, definitely. Cindy, let's talk about impostership, right? I feel that our generation lives chronically feeling like we don't deserve things. But what, for example, I want to hear from you, if there was a moment that you felt that, and how did you overcame those feelings of impostership? Yeah.
That's a great question. And I feel like we all go through the imposter syndrome at some point, especially when we're at our lowest, when you're tired, when you're overworked, when you're on that 24 hours and like all the pagers are going off, you're cross covering for the hospital and like you have no idea like how you're going to manage all of those things. But I think in those moments, it's very important to remember why you're doing what you're doing. Remembering all the patients, that spoke Spanish and were so happy to see you and like be part of their care. remembering all the moments that, you know, like Ophelia said, you were in the OR and you had the highs because you remember those moments. And, you know, it comes down to the point where after continuation of care, you remember these people. Some people come back and are often, like for vascular, you get to know them so well at some point. So you're just like, oh, I know this is Mr. Smith, or, you know, he's here for this. Like, let me make sure that he's getting the best care. And it just becomes personal. And once you make it part of you, then it doesn't become a task. And like, you remember that you are capable. And so you focus more on like the to-dos and like the patient care and like the experience. And you kind of stay away from the what if I don't make it, or like what if, you know, I'm not the smartest, or like if I don't know what to do. In all of those scenarios, you ask for help. And I think that's the best way you can look things up and like develop a plan, which is always good to have, but you know, you're not always going to be right. And that's okay. And I think the imposter syndrome part is where you are learning, and it's okay to learn. It's okay to make mistakes, but you know, just have good faith in you, or like have a good attitude about it. Because we're all going to experience it in one way or the other. So it's kind of like how you handle the imposter syndrome, because it's going to be there. But the way to handle it can make it a better experience or a harder experience for yourself. And I think that's the way I handled it, and I think it was very, very good for me. Just remembering what I was doing, why I was doing it, and caring about my patients.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And now I want to hear from Rod. We already heard a little bit from Fernanda, her time management, you know, skills and tips. But how about you, Rodrigo? How did you organize your time? You know, how did you could give us your perspective from that time organization skills? What would they be?
Yeah, sure. I think time organization was one of my fears actually when you asked that question. I knew that, you know, the over hours were coming, you know, and you know, my life, my family life, you know, my going and training and exercising or whatever, it was really important to me, you know, and that is one of the things that I would say that is essential. And for whoever that is listening to this, I mean, they need to organize their time and have some time for you, you know, put your phone off, you know, aside, do some exercise. No matter how tired you are, it's essential that you go out, you meet with people, you know, get out of the bubble of intern year and residency. It really is important. It is essential. It obviously goes by the hand with how are the people that you are, you know, is going to be that are going to be your co-residents. Of course, I had the chance to have amazing co-residents, so we every week at least once we met, you know, let's go let's go and get dinner, let's go and you know, whatever activity it was. But I think that is essential. Even if you're tired, even if you're getting home at 7 p.m. and 1 or 2 hours going to dinner with your friends, talking something different than medicine, it is essential. I think that is a way to decompress all the stress, decompress all the, you know, bad things that can happen on the day, you know, a bad day that patient dies or something happened, because those type of things happen and you don't think about those until you experience them. And you need to decompress them. So I would definitely recommend you guys that try to organize your time as much as possible to divide your time on work time, and whenever you're off the hospital, take off the scrubs and completely disconnect with your family and completely disconnect with your friends. That is essential. I would recommend you guys to do whatever activity, exercise, you know, hobbies, you know, if you like skating, if you like whatever it is, try to save some time for that. Obviously, on top of that, you know, you have to find some time to study. So, I mean, my way to do it, to be honest, I find some open spaces, for example, and studying for APSI, I would say one that may be useful for you guys. You know, when I'm commuting, unfortunately, I'm commuting like 30 minutes to the hospital. So at 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning, if I'm commuting, I'm listening to a podcast, you know, Behind the Knife or something like that. That it's helping me to study at the same time that I'm in the car, not doing nothing. I'm listening to something. I'm absorbing something, you know. So try to find those little spots, on your day, just to, either organize yourself to study or having free time. It is essential, Andres. I would say that.
Thank you, Rod. And what about you, Ophelia? Tell us about your studying habits, for upside, for cases, for rounds. What were they, and what can you share with us?
Yeah, I would say for like cases and just like preparing, and something I wish I would have done earlier during my intern year is sometimes some things like vary like just based on attendings, So I've started to like after the cases, I have an iPad where I just kind of sketch like where did we even put the ports for like a Nissen, fundoplication. You're like there's so many ports that go different places and some attendings like it one way. So I've started sketching that out and then like writing down the steps and things that you can remember. And from there, you're like, oh, I don't really remember this. So then I go like watch videos and stuff. But I think that's like the better way for me to study. It's like you see something like in real life, and then afterwards you're like, okay, now I really want to dive in and learn more about this and do more questions about it. But for me, that's kind of like what's really like stuck in my brain when I've seen it with the patient, and then I can go and kind of use these other resources like Rodrigo mentioned. Behind the Knife is great. I think the thing with Behind the Knife is like it gives you like the kind of like an outline of everything you need, but from there you should definitely go and investigate a little bit further and like find more details to the outline.
Great. And you, Fernanda, you mentioned that you're married. I don't know if you have kids, but you have a family. So how do you balance spending time with them? What do you do to kind of like dedicate that? I don't know if your husband is also in medicine, but if not, what can you what would be your words of advice here?
Yes, so I think he's not in medicine, so he has no idea how shift works, and having a hard day and be like, oh, what's your day? And I'm like, yeah, I have lots of patients. Like, it's sometimes hard. He understands everything, so that's fantastic. He is my support network with also my intern class and of course my chiefs. I think at the beginning was challenging because again I was hungry to learn everything and I was studying, and at some point he was like, you look tired, you need to be kind to yourself, like because I was like zero tolerance, no mistakes, no everything. And then I started realizing that that's true, right? Because I'm not leaving work where I'm supposed to leave it. And so for me, we made like a deal. So every Friday, we go and have dinner, and we take like this, because sometimes like also, and I was reading about this, like this decision, when you're tired of deciding because your entire day is deciding stuff, right? So we have this deal that every Friday, he will decide the restaurant, and then the next I will decide. So, that week it was nice because we got a deal. Like I know I was going somewhere, and it was kind of like a surprise. And then the next week I was looking forward to it because I needed to, do my homework and be like, oh, why am I going to take my husband? So we did that every Friday, like, and if I was on a 24 or something, we did it either Thursday or Saturday. And once a month we organize like a hiking, whatever. Like California is a fantastic place, so we had a lot of options. When I have like a golden weekend, we plan to get like slightly far, like maybe an hour or 2 hours, Yosemite or whatever. So it was also nice that again, I'm a very organized, structured person. So I was like, beginning of the month, these are my golden weekends. What are we doing? So planning ahead, it was nice because I had my plan and I was looking forward to it. So it was kind of nice to be like, oh, I'm like, I'm tired, but I'm also looking forward to that experience with my husband. So it was kind of nice. But again, it's also that, like, I know it's like this topic, like constant topic of like time management. It's definitely doable. And then sometimes, and again, it's this management, and also be kind to yourself. Sometimes, I was like, I just don't want to have dinner today. How about we just do a takeout? And that's totally fine. Like, and I didn't feel that I was failing my husband, right? It was just like, I'm just really tired. And that was totally fine.
Great, great. Lucky for you being in California. I think if Feli and I drive an hour, we're still in Dallas. So, lucky for you. Cindy, what hobbies did you have before starting intern year, and did you keep them? And if yes, how did you do that?
Yes, it's been challenging. I'm not gonna lie. I used to go to the gym like at least 3 times a week when I was in medical school. It used to help me with relieving stress. I always called my mom at least an hour or two, 'cause she's in Jersey, I'm in Chicago. So it was like I would tell her everything and she would tell all her comadres. And like, it was kind of like she was the middle person for like the family knowing what's going on with me because I can't keep in touch with everyone all the time. But in the beginning of intern year, I kind of lost the routine of going to the gym because I had long hours. I needed to learn how to transition and time manage. But now, like later on I would say like 6 months in, I've been able to be better at it. I've been able to know that maybe I can't go 3 times a week, but I can go like twice a week. And like, do some workouts where like if I'm not in the gym, I'm outside and I'm walking and I'm enjoying the beautiful weather. So you kind of balance it out. I still continue to call my mom at least like 30 minutes. It's the minimum I give her, because she always has a lot of info to give me and like she updates me on like world events and like what's going on in life. So I think that, she always makes me laugh and always puts a smile on my face. So I make sure I dedicate time for my mom, and other things I like to do is cooking. I'm a big swimmer. I love to do a lot of arts, and outdoorsy things. So I dedicate some time to that as well. Like Fernanda mentioned, those golden weekends, I plan like road trips or like something to do, so that you're looking forward to those things and it helps you stay balanced and always looking forward to something. So, in the beginning, there's going to be a transition. So, just stay true to yourself and remember, like, I like to do these things. How am I going to make these work? Sometimes you won't be able to do everything, and that's okay. It's a transition period, but just plan things out. I think that's very important to plan it out.
Cool. And how about you, Rodrigo? I'm gonna call you out here. You are probably one of the few interns in the nation that ran a marathon during an intern year. So, and I'm saying that because you made me run it with you. I had to, had to go to Miami to run that stuff with you, and it was hard. But I want to hear from you again. How do you squeeze that in? How do you make that happen?
Again, it's not easy, as everybody has told you. I mean, it's not easy to do it, but I mean, I guess put in some challenges as well, on your personal life. It also, balance things, and again, helps you decompress that all the vibes of the work, and don't get me wrong, but it's just a lot of stress. I mean, you're sometimes in a lot of stress. You love I love what I do with my heart. It's really gratifying, everything, but it comes with a lot of stress and a lot of time and a lot of effort, and physical, you're pretty, I mean, your energy physically, you're up, right? But you need those small times for you. So what I did, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm a completely rookie runner, so I use an app, pretty pretty random app, that I use for running. So I put myself 3 days a week that I would run. If I had a chance to run a fourth one, I did it. So for my long runs, I used my day off, which was when my wife was killing me. Trust me, it was a big problem at home, but. But she supported me, and it was great. We made it happen, and we suffered together. So I think those type of challenges you need to put as well, on your personal life. And if you like that, just try to find whatever fits to you and try to continue your hobbies somehow and try to fit it in. You can do it. It's definitely doable. The problem is definitely what Cindy was saying. It's just a transition time for at least 6 months, 3 to 6 months, where you're trying to understand how intern year works, how you're more efficient. You can be more efficient, how you can be more efficient, organizing your time in terms of studying and at the same time being efficient with your team and doing your job. But at the same time, you have some time for you. So just don't rush. For those that are incoming interns, just don't rush. It is a process. Trust the process. You're gonna find your own way. You're gonna find your own time. But definitely have it in mind. You know, you need to have your free time. You need to keep your hobbies. You need to keep doing what you love, despite you loving surgery and your work and your life being surgery as well. You know.
Thank you. And Ophelia, you know, Parkland, we have 75% of our population speaking Spanish. You know, can you tell us about a time, a moment that you as a Latino surgeon, how your experience as a Latino kind of like help you care this population, and how do you think that it kind of like shapes your identity as a resident, as a doctor?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, especially with our Hispanic population, I think that comes with a lot of responsibility. I've noticed that as soon as you walk in and they see that you're Hispanic, especially speaking Spanish to them, they are like ready to walk through fire for you. Like they're like, whatever you want, I'm gonna do it. So I always think it's very important. I mean, I'm sure all of us do this, was like, I'm going to try to like tell you why I'm advising you, not just be like paternalistic about it. And it's like tell you the reasoning behind things. Like I want you to like understand. And I do tell them the names of certain procedures sometimes. And I tell them like whenever another surgeon tells you about this, I want you to know the name of it so you can at least recognize it. I think there's a lot of like sometimes you have to meet the patient at the education level that they're at as well and try to explain it in those terms. But I see a big difference between like working at Parkland and then I go to Clements, which is more of our like American population, and they mostly speak English. And there I feel like I'm having to earn the respect. You know, like I walk in and some of them have already searched my name and they know where I went to med school and they know where I did, like I'm here for residency, you know? So it's like a very different sort of environment to walk into. But they're equally at the end of the day. I mean, I think they make us who we are as surgeons. And sometimes you have to fake it a little bit, you know, when you walk in there and they know your biography and you're just like, well, like I am here to do my job and let me tell you how I'm going to take care of you. And then come back to Parkland and you say like, whoa, slow down. Okay. Like, yes, this is my recommendation, but let me tell you why. So again, I think it's just kind of like a balance, and you, through the days of intern year, you end up developing a certain tact with patients, and you kind of see what type of patient you have in front of you, and then you have to adjust your strategy a little bit as well. But it takes a little bit of time.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And now, well, okay, we have 10 more minutes. For those, Fernanda and Rodrigo, you know, you did your prelim year, you landed into a categorical. Okay, how do you handle this situation? You know, you're starting as a prelim that can be super stressful. I can only imagine. And you know, you wanna win the spot. And you know, why would you recommend someone in your situation? And you know, how do you what would be your word of advice here?
Go ahead, Fernanda.
Any of you, please go ahead.
I think it's, of course, it's more stressful. It's definitely doable. I would say, I think, again, it's like a record here, like time management was very important for me because I needed to continue doing my research that I was doing. I'm like, I identify myself as a finisher. So I really wanted to finish all the projects that I put on hold while, you know, I was applying and all that. But so for me, it was a balance of I need to study for the clinical setting. I need to continue to do my research, and also be a normal human being with, you know, go out and see friends and go out with my husband. So to me, the most important thing was like, okay, after a very long day, after 6, 7, or whatever was my schedule, as I mentioned, 20, 30 minutes about reading about that day. So that was my 30-minute lecture. And then I would be like, okay, this project I needed to do a statistical analysis. And some days I was like very tired. So I was like, maybe not today. So I kind of just changed my schedule, being like, well, tomorrow we'll do this, but instead today I will do this. Also, part of my curriculum is I had like skills homework. So I need to do videos of me suturing. So I was like, I know every Tuesday I need to do my homework. So from 7 to 8, I will do all my skills homework. And then from 8 to 9, I will do 10 questions from MapSite for TrueLearn. And so I would say definitely doable. I would say one of the things that really kept me pushing was actually like, seeing all this Latino population and looking for you. Like, I think when you have all this Latino patients looking for you, and then once you enter the room, they feel relief because you look like them and you speak their language, and they actually start speaking Spanish. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then you are caught in between, like, okay, let me translate to my attending and then translate for you. And then so I think every time that I was feeling down, it was like, I'm here for a reason, right? And then we need more Latino doctors because we do have a very, very big Latino population here in the U.S. And of course, I would say a matter of like sometimes pride to be like, I need to do this, and I know. So I would say, like, summarize camp management, just find a goal. Like, you're here for a reason. You got a prelim position, which is it's also not that easy. So you are there because you deserve it. So just find that goal with it, and then just be a very hardworking. And all of you guys, you are Latinos. We are a very hardworking population. So just that will come ahead, and then you'll get when you get together. It's just a matter of like time, and as Rodrigo was saying, just trust the process. You'll get there.
Cool. Awesome. Rod, anything to add there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can be straightforward with you. It was a terrible year in terms of you're basically unstable emotionally, because I mean it's hard. You're not in a stable position. It is a 1-year interview. That's what it is. You have to be perfect on every aspect that you are. Even on the tough days, you have to have this big smile on your face. I mean, it's tough. It's really tough. I would say it's doable though, as Fernanda was saying. It's definitely a tough year. I would say that on top of all the the concerns that you have for being an intern, you have to win the position as well, right? So I would say for whoever is doing a prelim now, don't worry about it. Obviously, try to be yourself. Again, trust the process. Do your work as you're supposed to do it, and you're there for a reason, as Fernanda was saying. So if you're doing a good work, people are going to notice you. You have some extra skills. Latinos, as we were telling. I mean, there's a huge population here. Spanish speaking resident, you're going to be definitely a plus on the team. It's just easier to deal with stuff. About the culture, as we were telling. Things, little things. As some stuff on our culture that we just understand that Americans don't. And just that helps a lot. And that's a plus, of course. So, anyways, try to do that. However, I'm gonna be also objective. You need to definitely focus on your AppSite score. AppSite is going to be your stamp on your forehead, for the next season or matching season. So I would definitely recommend to be on top of that. Okay. So try to start studying early, try to organize yourself to have enough time and, knock down some questions and some the whole Q bank of TrueLearn, or if you're doing, any other Q bank. So try to focus on that, because even if you are being subjected and doing your work and trying to do the best as possible as a resident, and people are noticing, unfortunately you need to have a good AppSite score, and that's a reality. So try to do that. I would definitely recommend that.
Okay,
that's what I'm at.
Thank you so much. All your answers were amazing. I think now I'm ready. Ready. So we have 5 minutes for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. already got one, but already got answered. So feel free to, jump in, type it in the chat, and I'll read it to the panelists, and they can answer them for you. Okay.
Somebody was asking for AppSite, if I'm not wrong. Oh, Cindy answered. So anyways, AppSite is actually a date every year for every surgical program. So it normally is at the third week or last week of January. So every year you're going to have that, the test on the same date. So
okay,
it does not change. So you normally can start preparing if you want July, August, whatever it is, try to do some questions slowly, steady, but surely, and try to read as much as possible.
okay.
Sorry,
No, that's good, man. Thank you. And what about step 3? How do you kind of like squeeze that in and be a great intern at the same time? And
so
if you have 2 kids during intern year, Ophelia, Cindy, did you take step 3 during your intern year?
So I actually didn't. I'm taking it in August here. So I think it just depends on kind of like how your rotations are set up. And then so I would say, I don't want to say easier, but the time when I had a little bit more time was towards the start of the year. And that's when I was still getting pretty used to intern year. And then once it hit like August, like September time, I was like, like I would feel more comfortable just focusing on AbSite and then afterwards starting to study. And then after AbSite, you feel burnt and you're like, oh, well, it's like, yikes. So for us, Andres, for you, it's going to be, they want you technically to do it after the first year, but it's okay if you do it as long as it's before like March of your second year. So that's kind of how it ended up playing out for me.
Great. And what about, let's say, finish my notes, I'm able to scrub in, the pager goes off. What do I do? Do I just say bye, see you later? And like, how does that work? Any of you?
Yeah. So usually, like, again, depending on who's your team in there, circulator sometimes will be like, Ophelia, let me do you a solid, right? Let me call back. And sometimes, like, when you're on like emergency general surgery, a lot of the pages are like, the patient's angry, they want to eat. So the answer is usually no, and there's really nothing else that you can do about that. If it's a more emergent situation, you obviously need to scrub out and, somebody else needs to take over. But sometimes there's things that you can like feel through like through the phone. And as long as you have somebody kind of putting up the phone to your ear, you can try to like handle it that way. I'll admit at the start of like intern year, there like my threshold for doing that was like very low. Like there was only certain things I felt comfortable with answering through the phone. After that, I was breaking scrub and I had to go like lay eyes on the patient. So I think it gets better through the years, but I'm curious to hear what other people do.
For me, it was the same. I think sometimes you do have like a senior or a chief that'll be like, I'll hold the pager for you. And to me, it was more like, oh, is that okay? Like, it's my senior, right? I feel like guilt, but that was my assigned case. Again, for me, saying I had at the beginning very low threshold, like the patient is coughing out, and I was scrubbing out at that point. And then I was like, well, it's just like, it's a really emergent and like something I really need to scrub out. And I think this as a learning curve, it's a matter of like you start triaging what's really urgent for you to know like this cannot be a phone call. Like I really need to go and scrub out. This can be a phone call, or this can be like something that I can text after I finish my case. And that's like a skill that you learn throughout intern year until you feel comfortable saying like this is okay. It's nothing that's gonna happen, and or be like, oh, actually, like this is an emergency, I need to scrub out, but I'll be back.
Okay. And before I'm closing, after this question, one word, as a prelim, what matters the most, your step 1 or your step 2 scores or your AbSite score? Like once you're a prelim, is your AbSite score overriding the other 2, or do the other 2 still play a role in your application?
AbSite is my opinion.
AbSite.
Definitely AbSite. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much to all of you. That was phenomenal. Truly honored to have you here. You're all amazing. I really hope to be as amazing as you are. And please remember to follow the Latino Surgical Society on its social media, and feel free to send any question to any of us. This was great. That's a wrap. And well, that's it. Thank you so much. Ciao.
Bye. Thank you.